I got a song in my head.
Got everybody here? Good afternoon, everyone. We ready to go?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. I would like to acknowledge that I'm joined here today by Nassau County Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder, Chief of Detectives Chris Farrow, DEA Assistant Special Agent in Charge Ronald Collado, NYPD Inspector Thomas Kelly, and New York State Police Inspector TJ Roblewski of the DEA New York Drug Enforcement Task Force. These were our crucial partners in this months-long investigation that leads to this announcement today. I want to thank the Nassau County SPCA for their work in helping us identify the dogfighting aspects of this case and ensuring that the animals were removed from the situation they were in. And I want to thank the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter for housing and caring for the dogs seized in this investigation. We're here today to announce the indictment of Kevin Brown on multiple charges relating to drug possession, drug sale, weapons possession, and animal fighting. He was arraigned this morning in front of Judge Karen Fink, and bail was continued at $100,000 cash, $200,000 bond, and $500,000 partially secured bond. Today's indictment is the result of an extensive investigation that spanned several months, beginning in September of last year. It began when our partners at the Nassau County Police Department and the DEA were led to the defendant's residence through a separate investigation they were conducting in Uniondale. A search warrant was executed at that residence and uncovered a plethora of criminal conduct, including lethal drugs. A 9mm Smith & Wesson handgun loaded with 8 rounds in the magazine was also found. An additional preloaded magazine and a bag that contained a powdery substance was recovered. The testing on that substance determined that it contained the hallucinogenic drug ketamine. And finally, DEA and the NCPD recovered more than 1,000 pressed pills containing fentanyl, the dangerous opioid that we are all sadly too familiar with now. Those pills contained over 65,000 lethal doses of fentanyl. I'm going to say that one more time. 65,000 lethal doses of fentanyl were recovered. Right there, that bag in the front. That could kill thousands of people in Nassau County if it had hit the streets. As we know, a small amount of fentanyl can kill someone, as tiny as the tip of a pencil. These drugs would have had a devastating impact on our community if they were not seized. I want to thank again the DEA and the Nassau County Police Department for their great work here that undoubtedly, I say this, no doubt in my mind, saved lives here in Nassau County. Not long ago, I stood before you to talk about Grace Worthington, a teenager who tragically died in 2023 from a fatal overdose after she was sold pills that looked like oxycodone. Just like in Grace's case, these pressed pills we seized were tested and found to contain fentanyl. They were pressed to look like oxycodone, but contained the deadly drug fentanyl. Fentanyl is one of the deadliest drugs being sold on the streets today, and the prevalence in our community is only growing. Dealers peddling this poison have no remorse. They don't care about the families they destroy, and they're not standing there when the mothers and fathers are burying their children. We must do everything we can to stop the flow of drugs onto the streets of Nassau County. And we're doing that with investigations like this one and an indictment like the one that was handed up today. I'm also going to take a minute to tell you that our bail laws continue to fail us when it comes to drug cases. In this case, more than 1,000 pills, tens of thousands of fatal doses, and we would not have been able to ask for bail except for the fact that a loaded weapon was found in the house. The fatal drugs isn't enough, and we see all too many times these drug dealers being released and going back out on the street, and they're going back out to their business again, dealing drugs. This defendant's stockpile of fentanyl isn't where his alleged crimes ended in this case. As the NCPD and the DEA continued the search of the premises, a dogfighting operation was uncovered. You can see there's a small puppy in one of these pictures that was weighed down by a 23-pound chain and collar. The puppy itself only weighed 20 pounds. That chain and collar is in a bag here in the front. I'm not going to say to pick it up, but it's very heavy and it's very dangerous to have these animals tied up like this. 7 pit bulls, the oldest approximately 5 years old, and the youngest just 5 months old, like my friend Bruce Willis, who's here. Bruce is a 7-month-old pit bull seized from Brown's residence and were found in dirty wooden crates, no water and no food in sight. Equipment consistent with dogfighting, including a treadmill, including these heavy chains. There's a good picture of it up there. Collars, weighted collars, were scattered around the dogs. All 7 had various scars, both old and new, all over their bodies. And all 7 had lacerations to their ears and scarring on their muzzles, a clear indication of dog fighting, training, and or a breeding operation. One dog that was found roaming in the backyard had cropped ears, a practice common for fighting dogs, where a dog's ears are intentionally cut to avoid them being bitten off during a fight. This isn't just cruel, it's a serious crime. Dogfighting fosters violence and often goes hand in hand with drug activity, which is what we saw in this defendant's case. This operation exploited people and animals for financial gain. And let me be very clear, this lawlessness will not be tolerated by my office. I want people to remain vigilant. Signs of dogfighting aren't always apparent. They're often hidden in plain view. If you come across something that you think is suspect, please contact the police. If you see dogs living in rundown conditions, you hear sounds of fighting, or notice this type of dogfighting equipment, heavy chains, treadmills, spring poles, I ask you to contact the police. The threat of fentanyl, unfortunately, remains a serious problem in Nassau County. Just like in dogfighting, there aren't always obvious signs that fentanyl is present in another pill or a drug. And that can be deadly for the person in the throes of addiction or a teen who might be experimenting with their independence and decides to buy drugs off the streets. I will continue to hold people accountable who push this poison in our community. And I will continue to educate our residents on the dangers to try to prevent these tragic overdoses. The state provides testing strips to detect the presence of fentanyl. The county offers frequent Narcan training on how to properly administer that life-saving medication. These types of crimes have devastating repercussions, and there's no place for them here in our community. I am committed to prosecuting these heartbreaking cases of animal abuse. I am committed to prosecuting and pushing back on the drugs on our streets. And I am committed to ensuring justice for all victims of crimes. I'm going to turn it over to Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder. Commissioner, take a step.
Thank you. So good afternoon. I first want to start off by thanking our District Attorney, Ann Donnelly, because the good news is this criminal will spend its time in jail where he belongs. The bad news is we're going to give him a nice, comfortable cell. He should live in the same squalor that he put these poor dogs in and let him learn that little lesson in life. Our partners with the DEA, New York State Police, NYPD could not be better, could not be stronger. Because of those partnerships, along with a very strong and aggressive district attorney, this guy, Mr. Brown, will spend a lot of time in jail. These poor dogs did not have to go through what they went through. So again, we are volunteers, many of them that work over in the town of Hempstead, the animal shelter. I walk that path and I see them walking the dogs every day, giving back the love that these dogs have not gotten. And as a dog owner, I personally take offense to what Mr. Brown did to these dogs. I just left a memorial for one of our officers that died 14 years ago, Jeffrey Brykoff, a remembrance service. And the point of it was Jeffrey died because he responded to a call for a man that was drugged out with a knife and then was shot and killed. Our officer was shot and killed. These things don't have to happen. If these drugs are not on the streets, it won't happen. We continue, along with our county executive, Bruce Blakeman, to put more investment into policing. We'll swear in a new class next week. We'll put more cops on the street. And we will work together with this great district attorney to make sure that every single person that wants to put drugs on our streets or take advantage of the animals that live here will be taken care of, will be arrested, and will be prosecuted by this district attorney. So again, we thank the district attorney for the partnership, along with the DEA, State Police, and New York City Police Department. Thank you.
Any questions?
Were any of the dogs ingesting any of the fentanyl? Where do we stand with any knowledge of, were the dogs?
Not that we're aware of. They were all medically checked when they went to the town of Hempstead shelter.
So you were originally led to a home on Willow Avenue in Hempstead or Uniondale?
In Hempstead.
Okay, and that was, had to do with an overdose death
That's how the investigation began, with an overdose death.
in that house?
No.
Okay, but that's where it led, okay.
Because you said it started with an investigation in Uniondale in
Correct.
September.
An overdose death in Uniondale.
Okay.
And then evidence there led to Hempstead?
Correct.
And the address where this was all happening in Hempstead?
Yes.
Is that Willow?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Willow Avenue in Hempstead, okay.
And he was arrested in Seaford. His defense attorney says he doesn't live in that house. It's his mother's house. Any comment on that?
Where does he live? Does he live there?
I cannot comment on that.
Does he have priors that we know of?
Yes.
For,
Drugs?
so it's not the first time, like a long list, or do we know the extent of his priors? Felonies?
Yes.
But no dogfighting in the past, or?
There has been some animal cruelty charges in the past also.
Oh, animal cruelty. And do you have any idea, like where these fights would happen? The dogs were trained there, but were the fights there as well?
I can't comment on that. The investigation into where they were taking place is still ongoing.
And where are the rest of the dogs now? We see one here.
They're at the shelter, and they are adoptable. So if anybody wants to take Bruce Willis home, he is adoptable. And I believe one has already been adopted, right? Two?
Well, one's in foster, one's adopted, but yeah, they're both out of the shelter.
Great.
He has had prior animal cruelty charges. Is he on the registry?
No.
No. Was that before the registry?
Yes,
or?
before it existed.
Okay.
How long do you think this animal fighting ring had existed?
Well, I can't comment on that, but one of the dogs was as old as 5 years old, and it did have scarring and also signs that it had been fighting, so.
Last one?
Are there any other suspects in this case, where the dogs were fighting? Was it at the location where the dogs were trained? Or?
As I said, that investigation is still ongoing.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
He's been the only one charged so far in this.
Correct.
And just to clarify, you said these pills are made to look like oxycodone, but they actually had some
contain-
fentanyl or a lot?
they contain fentanyl. I can't say how much each one of them contains, but enough to kill somebody.
Might he face other charges related to that overdose death, that are more serious in terms of?
I can't comment on that.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.